We began traveling to Africa, Uganda specifically, in 2006 because we ran into the Equip organization, Dr. John Maxwell Leadership Equip organization, and we caught the vision that if you want to transform a nation, you have to transform the next generation. You have to teach the next generation and develop them to grow, to have a different mindset than the current leaders of the nation. And so we saw it as a tremendous opportunity and privilege to become associate trainers with that organization and go into Uganda and begin to train leaders over an extended period of time.
Since we started training, I don't have time to share the stories of transformed life, permanently transformed, because basically people are having challenges because of poor leadership. So once you get the leadership going, I see Uganda actually changing.
People have begun to be strategic in everything they do. They are intentional, they have strategic plans. Currently, our member of parliament, he's a Muslim. He came to our programs and he went through volume 1, and then he stood. His focus was clear. He knew where to focus his abilities. He had known his strengths. He had worked on his weaknesses, and people saw him as a better leader. Today, he's the member of parliament. Even the current mayor of our area is also a graduate of SMPI volume 1.
The ministry is all about touching the hearts and lives of as many people as possible.
Just seeing how God took a very meager beginning, just us going over and teaching our leadership seminars in 2 cities, has grown to graduating many classes after 3 years. We spend 3 years with each class, going twice a year. So 6 times we go back and see them. That is so rewarding, and it just keeps us on the edge to go back and see what God has done while we've been away.
When we were there, of course, you see all kinds of needs. You see all kinds of places where this country needs help. We were teaching a leadership class in West Kampala. The night before the class, I just heard the story of a family of 9 children who had just lost that day the parents. And all of a sudden, these 9 children were left without a support system that was going to provide food, that was going to provide housing. How were they going to live? Coming into the leadership training class the next day, I was still being so impacted by this. I couldn't teach the lessons for the first half hour or so. And I said, I just want to have a conversation with you about this situation. And I told them what happened. And then I asked them, I said, how many of you have experienced exactly the same type of situation within the last 12 months? Every hand in that room went up. Every person that was there trying to better themselves as a leader knew exactly what it was like to be thrust into a situation where parents have died, children are left alone, with really no way to support themselves except making incredible adjustments to lifestyle. And then I multiplied that thinking out of all of the families and all of the children. That's why the child sponsorship program started. That's why we started farming and growing food to feed kids at the school.
And then seeing the child sponsorship program develop to almost 90 children now that we are sponsoring, as well as 14 staff. That is so exciting. When we traveled to Uganda, I think it was probably our 2nd trip, we met Pastor Deo Mwanje. We had an immediate tie with him. We just felt that God had brought us together for a reason. We realized as he took us around his school, Treasure Kids Primary School, and we met some of the teachers, that these people had a very similar vision to what SMPI has. And that was to train up the next generation and to train them in godly ways, in ways of leadership, ways of integrity, servant leadership.
I said, Lord, how am I going to bring transformation in this community? The Lord spoke to me in a very simple way that transformation was going to come, but it will come through reaching out to the children. So my work is to pick them from the street, to pick them from the garbage, bring them to Treasured Kids, and I equip them to become what God has called them to be. The people in the slum are not educated. They don't see the value of education. Basically, they are surviving.
The teachers have such a vision. They're not just teaching material. They are teaching for life. The education is the key for them to be able to leave that kind of a dwelling and get a decent job and have a better home. And we came to realize that it's not just the child that benefits by sponsorship, it's the whole family.
because you could find a family of 6 and none of them is going to school. So usually the one going to school is more like the light of the family, the candle that's holding the family, the hope. We have families where the child has to work to take care of the family. We have families where, at the beginning it was mom and dad, but when life became so hard, dad took off.
One young man, Shamir, he's in high school now. We've really gotten to know him quite well. He's had a tough life. He's gone through some really difficult things. His dad just disappeared. We never did find out where he disappeared to, but things like that are somewhat common in Uganda, in African countries like this. So they're heartbreaking, but at the same time, you see these kids just so happy and so grateful for everything, that they have. We just feel like we're grandpa and grandma to a whole huge school of kids, and we love arriving there and receiving their hugs and their kisses, and they're just so excited to see us. It just makes you feel really good inside. And we know that we are representing all of the sponsors who are sending love to those kids and praying for them and sending sponsorship money to make sure that they stay in school.
One of the things you learn very quickly when you're over there is that the noon meal on school days is a very important part about what schools offer to children. I mean, every school feeds their children at noon hour.
Most kids can only afford one meal a day. I can tell you stories of kids who are raped because of food. Patricia's, one time she was 14. I saw her running up with men who were giving her food. And I told her, Patricia, you are going to die of AIDS. She looked in my eyes, she said, Pastor, I'd rather die of AIDS than dying of hunger. Because AIDS kills you slowly by slowly. But hunger, you can't survive without food. Tears just came into my eyes. I knew the need for the food.
Pastor Deo learned that the church that was sponsoring the feeding program at the school was going to have to stop. They were going to pull their entire support, which was funding the purchase of the food to feed the kids. We took that story back home, and a number of the farmers, one specifically, came to us and said, let's do something about this. Rather than sending money over for it, let's buy some land, let's grow the food, and let's get to a place where the land produces enough that hopefully it can become self-sustaining. There's enough product growing to feed the kids their noon meal, but also there'd be enough left over to sell into the communities so that they could raise the funds to pay for the workers, to pay for the seed, to pay for everything that was needed around the farm, and actually create a situation where the farm was self-sustaining, so that if we ever disappeared, if we ever were out of the picture, that farm would continue to produce food for the children. That idea had great appeal. We went back 1 year and the teachers came to us. They came to us with tears in their eyes because they realized that the children were doing so much better in their school. And they said it's because they're getting a solid noon meal, and we can tell in their academics they're just doing better. That was pretty impacting. All of these pieces fit into the overall mission of making lives better, helping children especially come out of their poverty cycle and have a chance to grow into something that is going to be valuable for them.
We get to know them, we understand their hearts, we begin to understand the culture of what really life is like in Uganda. And it's just been enlightening and it's been so rewarding. We have learned to love the people of Uganda. Our hearts are just knitted with them, and I really do feel like I'm going home in many ways when we go twice a year.
Through the training, it's taken me to the northern part of Uganda, it's taken me to the east, it's taken me to the south. And I see the nation changing.
We hope that SMPI is going to continue with its leadership training programs within our nation, reaching to our communities with the same message of hope and how leadership can transform individuals and families and our communities. And as a nation, our nation is suffering from corruption. But when you hear SMPI graduates, the testimonies they're experiencing, the influence they are imparting in their places, it excites me and gives me hope that the future of our nation, the future of our continent is brighter.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, we really think that the nation is going to be affected and changed because of our partners, those who've come and learned from us, our graduates from the courses, that will go out and just take that message to the entire nation.